small step for the man, but a giant leap for the mankind. The famous words from Mr. Neil Armstrong when he visited the moon on 20th July 1969 as a part of Apollo 11. And now, nearly after 50 years of Apollo missions, the mankind is once again all set to visit the vicinity of the moon. Yes, we are talking about Artemis II. Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to the State of Affairs brought to you by Shankar IAS Academy. So we know that one of the best creations of time is nothing but man. But if you ask me what makes this man more special, then the answer is his tendency to explore and experiment. Yes, everything that we are seeing today, everything that we are using today, for example, the food we eat, the clothes we wear, and the technology that we are using, everything is a result of man's tendency to explore and experiment. Because experiment was crucial for his survival from the very beginning. If you take the lunar calendar from the Sumerian culture, or if you take the lunar calendar from the ancient Middle East, or if you take the Mayan calendar, all this indicates the man's understanding, not just about his surrounding, but also his interest beyond time and space. Because all this documents talks about, all this evidence talks about the man's interest in time, space, and also about other cosmic events happening inside the universe. But if you ask me, since when the man started showing more interest, particularly on the moon, then the answer is 1950s. Because in ancient time, understanding the movement of the planets, understanding the movement of the lunar, the moon, everything was a part of man's survival. Because they calculated the days, they calculated time, they calculated the direction using the stars and moon. Because it was a part of their survival. But in 1950s, understanding the moon or conquering the moon was not just a part of man's survival, rather it was a part of man's politics. Because in 1950s, the world order was totally changed because of the Second World War, and all the superpowers were replaced by two new powerful superpowers, that was USA and the USSR. Both were equally powerful. Therefore, they could not engage in a direct conflict, but instead they decided to flex their achievements in different areas. For example, economic growth and development, defense, technology, and also space. Yes, the period of 1950s and 1960s witnessed a space race between the USA and the USSR, and that marks the history of the lunar exploration of the man in the modern times. In the initial phase of the space race, the USSR was successful because in Sputnik 2nd in 1958, they successfully sent a life from the surface of the Earth to the space. That was Laika. And in 1961, in Vostok 1, they made another achievement. The USSR successfully sent the first man from the surface to the space. And again, after 2 years, that is in 1963, in Vostok 6, the USSR made one more achievement, that was sending the first women to the space. So the realm of space is conquered by the USSR, and the only option before the America to win in the space race was conquering the lunar surface. And for that, in 1963, they started the Apollo missions. And 5 years before 1963, that is exactly in 1958, they laid foundations for the NASA to lead the lunar exploration and also the exploration and experiments of the USA in different parts of the universe. And in 1963, they laid the foundation for the Apollo mission. So the Apollo mission, the term Apollo is taken from the Greek mythology. So we know that Apollo is a god of music and prophecy. So they gave the name Apollo to the lunar expedition. And we can see that in the initial phase also, the American attempts were not that much successful. The first the first Apollo mission was a disaster. And later they continued the efforts. And finally in 1969, through the Apollo 11, the America landed the first man on the moon, and that was the beginning, or that was a milestone chapter, not just in the history of USA, but in the history of mankind itself. And we can see that after Apollo 11, after 12, 14, 15, 16, and 17, all these Apollo missions were successful. Unfortunately, Apollo 13 wasn't successful, but we successfully saved the crew members involved in the mission. The last Apollo mission was sent in the year 1972, that was Apollo 17, and the 1970s marked a great pressure in the world, a political as well as economic pressure, because the USA was involved in the Vietnamese War. The war was at its peak in 1970s, and also the Cold War also reached the peak. The tension between the USA and the USSR also reached the peak. So therefore, the 1970s marked a great pressure on the US administration. So the US administration decided to stop their lunar exploration for a short period of time, and they stopped the Apollo missions also. The last Apollo mission was sent in the year 1972 in the month of December. That was Apollo 17. So this is a short history of Apollo missions of USA. What happened after 1970s? So we know that in the late 1980s, the Soviet Union, the opponent of the USA in the Cold War, started disintegrating. And finally, in the month of December 1991, the USSR was totally dissolved and the entity was, started resting in the history. So what happened? Now the world order also changes. The world order changed from bipolar to multipolar world order. So every nation started sending their own lunar exploration. For example, the India successfully, we made the Chandrayaan missions, and like that, the China, they have Chang. So every nation started sending their own lunar exploration. And what happened again in 2017? The US administration once again announced another plan, that was the Artemis. So the term Artemis is also taken from the Greek mythology. Artemis is the twin sister of Apollo, and Artemis is a god of hunting. And so Apollo, the first lunar exploration of the USA, that is the Apollo is the god of music and prophecy. Artemis is the twin sister of Apollo, god of hunting. And this Artemis missions were announced in the year 2017, and the first Artemis mission was sent in the year 2022. We used the space launch system, that is the most powerful launch vehicle in the world, and also we used the Orion spacecraft in the mission. So what is the objective? So the objective is, visiting the vicinity of the moon. Okay, and this was an uncrewed test flight. It was an uncrewed test flight. That means no people involved in this mission, and that makes the Artemis 2 different from Artemis 1. Artemis 2 was, now the US administration is planning for Artemis 2 on 2026 February 6. Okay, if all conditions are good, then we will be launching the mission on February 6th. So the Artemis mission is a crewed test flight around the vicinity of the moon. And here also we are using the most powerful launch vehicle of the world, that is the Space Launch System, and also the same Orion spacecraft. If this Artemis 2 is also successful, then we will be going for Artemis 3, which is planning to send the man to the south pole of the moon, near the region of south pole of the moon, the most difficult region of the moon to understand. And when we talk about the south pole, India have a great achievement, because we are the only country in the world to make a successful landing of a rover near the south pole of the moon. That was the Chandrayaan 3rd mission. Okay, so not that, India is the only country that made a successful landing near the south pole of the moon, and that is our unique achievement. And if this Artemis 3 is also successful, then we will be planning for Artemis 4, which is planning for the establishment of a lunar space station for further exploration and research in the universe. And later we will be using this space station as a mobile station for conducting expeditions to Mars and all. Okay, and now we are going to see about the technology that we are using as a part of this Artemis 2. Okay, so like I already mentioned, in Artemis 1 we used the SLS, that is the Space Launch System, the most powerful launch vehicle in the world for the Artemis mission. And then I already mentioned that the name Orion. Orion is the name of a constellation, right? So here also we are using the spacecraft. The name is Orion. Okay, and how we can understand the entire technology? For that, we have to divide that system into two parts or two stages. That is the upper stage and the core stage. So this is the core stage, and above this part, it is the upper stage. What are the important components of the core stage? Core stage will be having, they can hold approximately 7,30,000 gallons of liquid fuel, called hydrogen as well as oxygen fuel. Okay, and this core stage will also have two solid boosters to provide additional thrust at the time of launch. And talking about the upper stage, what are the important components of the upper stage? So the upper stage will be having a launch abort system for the safety of the astronauts, and it will be having the Orion spacecraft and also the European service module. Okay, European service module is the powerhouse of the Artemis mission. So this will be powering the spacecraft towards the moon after entering into the translunar injection. Okay, and this is a crew module. Inside this crew module, the members of the mission will be sitting. Okay, and talking about this launch abort system. So it's a cone-shaped structure located on the top of the entire vehicle. What is the function of this launch abort system? So I already mentioned that this launch abort system is for the safety of the crew members. How this will be protecting the crew members? In case due to any unfortunate incident, if there is any accident or something happens, this this launch abort system will be separating the crew members. That means it will be separating the crew module from the rest of the system, and it will pull away the crew module. So through that, it will be saving the life of the astronauts in case if there is any accident. Once again, I will repeat: in case if there is any accident, the launch abort system will be activated, and that will be pulling away the crew members away from the rest of the system. So the crew members' life will be saved. Okay, so this is a function of the launch abort system. So we discussed what is the important components of the core stage, and we discussed the important components of the upper stage. So what is the mission map? How they are planning for the mission? So if all conditions are good, then on this February 6th, we will be launching the Orion spacecraft towards the moon. So the spacecraft will be launched from the Kennedy Space Center, which is located in the California, and also it is launched from the launch pad 39B. So if all conditions are good, then the NASA will be launching the Orion spacecraft from the launch pad 39B in the Kennedy Space Center on February 6th. So what happens after the launch? After the launch, exactly after 2 minutes, that means exactly after 126 seconds, the solid boosters will be separated from the core stage. The two solid boosters will be separated from the core stage, and this core stage will be pushing the Orion spacecraft. That means this core stage will be pushing the upper stage towards the trans-atmospheric trajectory. Okay, trans-atmospheric trajectory, and after reaching that stage, that means exactly at 8 minutes, this core stage will be also separated from the rest of the system, and then this then the in the upper stage we have one component called Interior Cryogenic Propulsion Stage. Okay, so we already discussed what are the important components of the upper stage: launch abort system, Orion spacecraft, European service module, and also the Interior Cryogenic Propulsion Stage. Okay, Interior Cryogenic Propulsion Stage is also there. So this Interior Cryogenic Propulsion will make the first burn, and that first burn will be pushing the Orion spacecraft into the perigee stage. At this perigee stage, the Orion spacecraft will be approximately 100 plus miles away from the Earth. That means it is near to the Earth only. And then what happens? It will start orbiting the Earth in an elliptical pattern. And in the meantime, that means approximately the meantime means 24 hours. In this 24 hours, the crew members will be making sure that all the system, the life supporting system and other mechanisms inside the spacecraft is working and it is safe. Okay, and they will be also assessing their psychological condition. That means in the space we have to face isolation, right? So the crew members' health, including the mental health, will be assessed at this time. And the Interior Cryogenic Propulsion Stage will make a second burning, and this time the spacecraft will be pushed to the apogee stage, that is approximately 1,800 miles away from the Earth. 1,800 miles away from the Earth, that is apogee stage. So this distance means at least 1/16 distance between the Earth and the Moon. So at this stage, the spacecraft will be far away from the Earth. Okay, so after reaching this height, the Interior Cryogenic Propulsion Stage also will be disposed. That means it will be also separated from the rest of the system. Now the spacecraft and the European service module will be there, and then using the powerhouse, then using the European service module, we will be moving towards the moon. Okay, then using the European service module, we will be making the trans-lunar injection, and from there we will be moving towards the moon. And what is the primary objective of this mission? Assessing the far side of the moon. Okay, not just the moon, assessing the far side of the moon. Far side means we know that the moon is tidally locked with the Earth. As a result, from the Earth only one side is visible, the another side is not visible. So the Orion spacecraft will be moving towards the far side of the moon, and for that it will take approximately 4 days. Okay, it will take 4 days, and we can see that after moving towards the far side of the moon, they will be they won't land. Not that they won't land, the spacecraft will be flying approximately 7,800 kilometer away from the lunar surface. The spacecraft will be flying at least 7,800 kilometer away from the lunar surface. So they will be assessing all the important features of the far side of the moon, and later using the Earth moon gravity, the spacecraft will be returning back to the Earth. And on the way to the Earth, within atmosphere, when it reaches the Earth atmosphere, the European service module, the powerhouse of this spacecraft, will be destroyed. Only the crew module, that is only the crew capsule, will be landing in the Pacific Ocean, and from there the American Navy will be collecting the crew module. That is how the system is, that is how the map is planned, that is how the mission is planned. Okay, so once again I will repeat, if all conditions are good, then on February 6th, from the 39B launch pad of Kennedy Space Center, we will be launching the mission, and after reaching the particular height, the solid boosters at 1/26th second, the two solid boosters will be separated. At 8 minutes, the core stage itself will be separated, and Indianium cryogenic propulsion stage will make first burn, pushing the Orion spacecraft to the perigee stage, and after 24 hours it will be making a second burn, pushing the Orion spacecraft to the apogee stage. And after that, what happens, the Indianium cryogenic propulsion stage also will be disposed, and then using the powerhouse, using the European service module, the spacecraft will be moving towards the moon. It will be traveling for approximately 4 days. It will be studying the far side of the moon, and taking another 4 days, it will be moving. It will be coming back to the Earth using the Earth moon gravity. So why we are using the Earth moon gravity? Because it will save a lot of fuel. At the same time, it will give a slingshot. That means the efficiency, we are using the gravity as an advantage to save the fuel. Okay, so using the Earth moon gravity, the spacecraft will be, the European service module also will be destroyed when it enters into the Earth atmosphere. The crew capsule alone will be landing in the Pacific Ocean, and from there the US Navy will be collecting the crew capsule. Okay, so that is the mission plan. And who are the crew members involved in Artemis II? So we have the commander Reid Wiseman, and we have the pilot Victor Glover, and we have two mission specialists. They are Christina Koch and also Jeremy Hansen. Jeremy Hansen is from Canadian Space Agency. Okay, and what is the current status of this Artemis II? So recently the NASA announced that they are going for wet dress rehearsal. Wet dress rehearsal is a test. It's a pre-launch assessment done by the Space Center to make sure the safety of the spacecraft as well as the rocket. And the primary objective of this pre-launch assessment is nothing but fueling the rocket. So they are planning to fuel the core stage using 7,000 gallons of called hydrogen and oxygen fuel. Okay, so they are planned the 31st January for this wet dress rehearsal. By the time you are watching this video, this test will be done. Okay, and so if all like I mentioned, if all conditions are good, then the NASA will be launching on February 6th. If there is any change, then the windows are available in the month of March as well as in the month of April. So anyway, this mission will be launched. If there is, the chance is less, if at all there is a chance for postponing this mission, then we can expect the mission in the very next month or in the month of April. Okay, so that is the status of the Artemis. I hope you understood this topic. So we can see that from a mere tool maker in the Valley of Africa, now we have sent our missions to the space to conquer the lunar surface. So this growth of the man, this journey of the man is a great legacy. And if this mission is getting successful, definitely it is going to open a milestone chapter in the history, not just in the history of NASA, but in the history of mankind. So as a part of mankind, as a member of the mankind, we can wish them a great success. And if there is any further updates, we will be informing you. And in the meantime, take care of yourself and see you in the another video. Thanks for watching.